The ladies like a guy with an eye for style. At least the bird we're going to talk about today thinks so. Some creatures fight for their mates, but not this little gentleman. He knows that sometimes you've got to get creative to get the girl. But that's just how it goes in life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy, your 30 minutes of interesting animal information.
Ooh.
Today, we're talking about...
Wait, who are we?
I'm Joe.
Oh, yeah. That makes me Carlos.
The fact that I'm Joe makes you Carlos?
I have a contingent identity.
But today we're talking about our first ever bird.
Hooray! First bird.
We're working our way through the
classes.
The classes, yeah.
Separation of the classes. So I'll go ahead and say the taxonomic information about this one.
Okay.
Because the family and the genus, that's a doozy of a word. Hold on. Give me a second to count the amount of letters in this. 17-letter word. But we'll start with the kingdom is Animalia, as per the usual.
Yep. We're not talking about plants around here.
Nope, no plants. Even though technically plants are taxonomized.
Right. But we're talking about animals. And sometimes we talk about plants because of the animals.
Right. You never know on this podcast. So the phylum is Chordata because they have spinal cords. The class is, I'm going to say, Aves. Aves. A-V-E-S.
Ave. Yeah.
Ave. The order is Passeriformes, which include half of all bird species. And the biggest of those are the ravens.
Okay, yeah, I can see that when looking at them.
That they look like ravens?
Similar.
Well, like wrens and finches and blue jays and cardinals, those are all Passeriformes.
Okay.
So the other orders would be like the birds of prey.
Parrots,
yeah, and falcons actually have their own order. Falconiformes, believe it or not.
Interesting.
So the family is Tilanorhynchidae.
That seems right.
There's a P in the front of that, so I'm pretending like it's not there. I'm pretending that the P is not there. And get it?
I got you. For a second, I was like, that's a new word. What's pretending?
Just like pterodactyl
Sure.
and pneumonia. And then the genus is Tilanorhynchus. So the family is Tilanorhynchidae, and the genus is Tilanorhynchus. This is for the very specific satin bowerbird, because bowerbirds, they're all under Tilanorhynchidae. And it's Tilanorhynchus violaceus.
Is the specific satin.
Is the satin bowerbird, yeah. And I didn't bother to write down the binomial nomenclature for every single species of bowerbird.
Okay.
So they're a songbird they're usually, obviously smaller than ravens, bigger than wrens and finches.
Some of them have mockingbird level of mimicry.
Yeah, some of them can mimic animals like pigs, other birds, and human speech. And
they make some pretty otherworldly sounds, I'll tell you that.
They even purposefully mimic rushing water. Isn't that crazy? How do you even do that? That's bad. I know it's you. I didn't think that a river was flowing through. So they're native to Australia and Papua New Guinea pig.
Except for the pig part. Unless they're mimicking one.
But guinea pigs, I don't think they're native to Papua New Guinea anyway. I think they're native to Peru.
Yeah, well, that's where they eat them.
Yep. I have. Cuy is what it's called when it's cooked.
Ugh.
It's interesting that some animals are named something different when they're cooked.
Like pork?
Yeah, pork
beef.
And beef, but then like chicken is chicken.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I just had a slab of pig.
Fish is always just whatever the fish is.
Yeah, but you could also just say fish. It's like, there's fish in that. It's like, that's fine. But it's like, I'm having a cow sandwich. Oh, do you mean you're having a burger?
You barbarian.
A cow burger. Or I'm having a pig ribs.
Oof. Hoof.
Cloven hoof. So they like rainforests and forests that have a lot of eucalyptus, which is native to Australia, and acacia trees. I don't know why.
They need sticks. I'll tell you that much.
They do need sticks.
I'll tell you why in a bit. It's not for what you think. You might think nesting.
Sure.
It's not for that.
But they do make nests.
Separately?
The females do make individual nests.
Okay, that's a good place to put eggs.
Yeah.
It's better than the ground.
The Papua New Guinea species usually lay one single egg, where the Australian species tend to lay a batch or a carton of eggs.
Is that really?
No.
It's 12 whole eggs.
And they range in appearance. Sometimes they're just black, so they look like ravens. The satin bowerbird is pretty much just looks like a crow, where others are vibrant. They're red and yellow, and some are black and yellow. Some are green. It's pretty crazy, and that's just due to the fact that there are a lot of species within. There are 20 different bowerbird species across these two countries.
Okay.
And they tend to live about 26 years, which is the longest average lifespan of any passeriform.
Okay. The longer lifespans for birds are generally parrots.
Yeah, parrots and
The
cockatoos.
African gray can live for like 100 years or something.
I heard 80 something.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a long time. And specifically, the satin bowerbird has bright blue or purple eyes, which is pretty crazy to look at. Mm-hmm. And then some of the other ones have yellow eyes or black ones. They're frugivores, which is a word I just learned. Means you eat mainly fruit.
Huh.
And they also eat leaves and insects and seeds and things like that, like pretty much almost every bird does. So yeah, that's the general overview of bowerbirds. But what makes them bowerbirds?
Okay. A bower, in case you didn't know, means like a room.
It's also a really powerful card in
Yu-Gi-Oh? Magic?
No. What's that game that Midwesterners play?
Oh, like gin rummy?
Something like that.
Pinochle?
Dang it, I can't believe I used to know how to play this.
I'll start talking about this and you remember.
Sure,
that.
I'll think about it.
Euchre.
There we go.
Okay.
Euchre. The Bower is a powerful card, and the Bower is almost always the Jack.
Oh, Jack Bauer.
And Jack Bauer.
But is it spelled like B-A-U?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is B-O-W-E-R.
Right.
And basically, these dudes have a pretty interesting mating display. And lots of birds do, but it's generally dance-oriented.
So is this.
This has dance in it. But
like everything should.
They also are into set building.
They're into mise-en-scene. For real.
It all starts with the Bower, and I'm thinking of naming this episode Bower Bloods. That's a little spoiler. Bowerbirds, blue eyes and eyes for blue. Because they have blue eyes, and some species of females really like the color blue. And that comes into this mating display.
You wouldn't call it Bower Power?
No.
Like Flower Power?
Maybe. We'll workshop.
Maybe Bower Power, blue eyes,
White
and
dragon.
eyes for blue. Blue.
Another more powerful card in a card game.
True, yeah, we'll give you that.
Okay, so their mating display has been called by some researchers the most complex mating display in birds. Or, no.
In the animal kingdom?
Let me dial that back.
Oh,
most complex behavior in birds.
Oh, wow. That's not dialing it back, that's dialing it
ramping
out.
it up. So, first of all, the Bower is a structure of twigs and sticks that can take years to build.
Which is good because they live 26 years. They have that kind of time.
Uh-huh. And it takes 7 years for them to reach sexual maturity. So I don't know if they get started early. Do they prepare for their quinceañera or whatever? It's actually not 15, but
it's
7.
It's a septenniera.
Yeah.
A sietenera.
Or do they just feel like one day I'd like a lady in my life, and they start building? But
they probably have puberty.
Some
a ton of bricks.
Some species don't have a Bower at all, but
really?
Most have what's called avenues. They call them,
like a trail,
which is like two groupings of vertically placed sticks that are next to each other. So,
am I picturing a wall here?
Kind of like two walls next to each other.
Like a hallway?
Not necessarily very long, but just like something that a female could step into. She's bookended by two sticks. Not two sticks, many sticks, but two stick pylons.
Oh, okay.
So,
So she realizes, okay, I'm in the right place.
yeah, I'll tell you why they think that they build these and then that females sometimes sit there.
Okay.
Some build something called maypole bowers, Maypole,
All right.
and that is a structure, like a half dome structure almost, open on one side, that is built around a central sapling. So they'll find like a little tree, and that will be kind of like, the main structure.
So this is like a circus tent.
Kind of, yeah, but it's open on one side.
Okay.
Made of sticks, entirely of sticks.
All right.
So that's where you can see, like, this took years to build.
This is the Rainforest Cafe
Sure.
at the Sawgrass Mall.
Sure.
I mean, it's like this. It has a big stick in the middle, and then it's kind of like a tent coming down from the top.
Circus tent is a good way to put it. So some researchers suggest that the bowers are built to invite females to a safe place. Basically, they will stand in between, because that way it's harder for males to mount them without their consent. So it stops forced copulation.
Okay.
I will use big words for the kids.
All right. Thank you. I understand.
So basically, they suspect that, like, it's all about attracting the female, and the female will not go near a male that she thinks is threatening. So in order to make them feel safer, they build these bowers as, like, shelter.
Okay. So
But
it's like, hey, come into this place that has one exit or entrance.
Well, it's kind of like
that I've decorated for you.
Because they have to, like, fly a little bit to get... I would imagine that it's hard to, like, navigate if there's, like, two pylons and, like, she's right in between them.
Mm-hmm.
She could probably get out of the way. I don't know.
The logistics are astounding.
But there's a couple of things wrong with that theory. One, like, the male will be inside the maypole bower, the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he retreats into it. I guess that's another way of saying, like, take a look at my stuff while I just retreat back here
and stare at you,
and, like, into the dark of this, like, little stick cave I built. Yeah, but she stays outside, so, like, that's the point. Like, wow.
She kind of just looks inside and says, "Oh, I like those flowers.
Yeah.
Did you spit on the wall? I like that."
We're gonna talk about that.
That's not
and then
poop, is it?
And one species will actually, like, grab them out of the air. Like, males will grab females out of the air and force copulation.
Okay.
So it's like, well,
she doesn't want that.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, like, that's the problem with that theory.
Oh, okay.
There's so you got your bower. Now they start collecting. The males will collect colorful objects to attract the females. And some species, they actually think that the color and the object that they choose are things that the female will like. It's based on her preference. So it's like...
Kind of has to guess?
They come and go frequently. So
There's a rotating door? A revolving door?
Kind of. No, well, like, the female will come to see the male's bower. She'll look around and then leave if she's not pleased. But she'll come back. She'll keep coming back to see, like, how he's changed things. And I saw one during a mating display where the female will actually picked up a specific object, dropped it on the ground, and then the male picked that up and incorporated it into his display.
So he's like, "Oh, you like
blueberries?
Blueberries? Then I'm gonna go get you 6 blueberries.
Right.
Come back in an hour."
So they learn based on, like, experience what the females like, and certain species are pretty much exclusively into blue. The female tends to be attracted to blue things, so the males will collect all sorts of blue objects.
Which is odd because there aren't a lot of naturally blue things in nature.
And sometimes the things they collect are not natural. Okay, here's a list of things that you might find in a bowerbird's bower.
Okay.
Shells, leaves, flowers, mushrooms, feathers. Interesting. They don't always have colorful feathers, but they'll take feathers.
I didn't see any bowerbirds that were blue.
So. Stones, berries, plastic, coins, nails, bullet casings, and glass.
Bullet casings.
Yeah.
The feathers thing, I'm imagining like a bowerbird seeing a blue jay and being like,
Give me that.
oh my gosh.
I'm following him until he drops one.
or I'm just going to rip all the feathers out of his back.
And that's just not all. Some bowerbirds will have different colored objects. So, and they'll group these things together. So they'll collect like 16 blueberries, 100 pebbles, put that in a pile, flowers, put that in a pile, and they're all piled up together and separated. And then I saw one that collected actual beetles, colorful living beetles, and put them into little piles, and they would crawl away, and he'd keep putting them back together.
Man.
Getting frustrated.
He needs to kill them or pin them to something, like at Butterfly World.
So after he's collected a bunch of stuff he thinks that the female will like, or before, when he's creating the bower, he will take, you saw, mud and paint the walls with it.
Right, mud and mix it with his saliva. Now, the only one I saw...
He's making brick or mortar.
I saw for this was the regent bowerbird, which is this black bowerbird that has a bright yellow crest and a yellow bill. It'll use leaves that it finds to actually paint the wall, which is tool use, straight up tool use. Mm-hmm. And you do not see this often with birds. Crows use tools, parrots use tools. But it's just not a common thing. It's not a common thing in the animal kingdom to take another object and use that to facilitate something else. So that's pretty fascinating. The mud is they sometimes combine it with leaves or like berry juice or something like that to change the colors.
Whoa,
mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy.
And also collect deer poop.
Yeah. Anything that they think the female will like, they collect.
Which I liked it in the video that you were watching that I saw over your shoulder. There was a fungus growing out of the deer poop, like this mushroom,
white mushroom fungus,
and he didn't like it. He was like, "This messes up my mise-en-scene." Yeah. And so he starts
this feng shui is off.
This is definitely some bad chi coming this way. So he starts trying to like rip it out.
That was from BBC's Life.
Mm-hmm. Good old David Attenborough.
Okay,
the bowerbird collects fungus and is not happy with what he sees.
Okay, so now you get the bower, you get the collection, and now it's time for the dance.
All right. So
which is pretty typical of birds.
He's gotten the female, her attention, and she is sitting in the doorway, going like, "All right, well, I like your seduction den. Let's see what you got."
Okay, and this will be a typical birdly dance that you might see in a mating display from a bird.
Okay.
Lots of different movements, up and downs, left and rights, wings out, wings in. You never know.
This is already too complex for me.
They typically dance on the ground. They pick up objects they think the female likes. So from his collection, if he sees the girl eyeing the blueberries, he'll pick up a blueberry and incorporate that.
Into his dance?
Into his dance. Like, he'll just be holding it while he dances.
Okay.
And she's like, "Oh, I was looking at that. Now I'm looking at you."
now you forced me to look at you because I'm really interested in that blueberry.
Clever. And this is interesting. So they've already built a structure that helps the females feel safe. And they also they've done research with robot birds, robot females. So, like robotic, fake decoy females that they can control.
Right. So this is like in The Incredibles when there's a robot bird that's actually a security camera and an alarm system?
It's exactly like that, yes.
All right. This is pretty complex. I didn't even know they had robot birds.
And the male will start his dance, and they will have the robot bird display discomfort, and the male will dial it back on the aggressive motions.
They've built a robot bird that can display discomfort.
It's like an animatronic bird.
They can barely make human robots that can display discomfort, and we can tell. That's
here's the thing.
Not very nuanced.
We can tell. We're really good at looking at faces, right?
Sure.
So humans are really good at
So they just like
deciphering expression. There are some animals that don't understand the difference between males and females of their own species. So,
like this one?
In this one, like, I watched a thing where a male mistook an adolescent male for a female and started doing his display. So, I mean, they're not...
That must have been really awkward.
I mean, there's some, like, specific things that they probably can understand is discomfort. Maybe just backing away.
Or maybe puffing out the chest or something like that.
But anyway, the males will dial back their display if they feel like they're making the female uncomfortable.
Okay.
Which is something some humans don't understand.
Yeah, I think that's something that we should all incorporate into our daily lives, our courtship displays.
Stop making women feel uncomfortable.
If you or be sensitive to that. Like the bowerbird.
Yes. Okay, so also the males will sabotage other rivals' displays. So
jerk move.
They'll come over, mess up their bower, break it apart. They'll steal collection items, and they'll even interrupt the mating ritual.
Dang.
So
they'll just show up and be like, "Hey, baby," and she's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot there were other males."
The one from a stone's throw away.
You're the one who lives near that cedar I've been hearing about.
I've been hearing about the cedar.
Yeah, everybody's hanging out at the cedar. I don't even know if they have cedars in Papua New Guinea or Australia.
Neither do I, but they probably have Australian pine.
I'll say the eucalyptus because that's definitely what they is around there.
And that sounds like a weird club.
The Eucalyptus Club?
Let's go to the Eucalyptus.
It's just called Eucalyptus.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds... I'm sure there's a club called Eucalyptus.
So, one guy named Ernest Thomas Gillard...
Definitely British.
...is a researcher, and he's looking into these birds, and he thinks that there's something called transference, where typically we see birds colorfully adorned in just their regular feathers.
Their
Plumage, indeed. And that is a means of attracting females. And he says because these colors also make you more visible to predators, they are evolutionarily selecting them out. So these species are kind of changing to transfer this colorful plumage to an outward display. So instead of being colorful, they turn brown, and they have colorful collections.
So why wouldn't this translate to... I guess it depends on the amount of predators in an area. So the more predators there are to these birds, then the more that darker plumage will be selected, because the brighter birds will be eaten. But almost all birds have brilliant mating displays, and the males are almost always very colorful. So I feel like, why wouldn't this be across the entire bird class? Aves, aves, ave.
Maria. I don't... Yeah, that's one of the criticisms of this theory is that how come it's not... Similar things aren't happening in other bowerbird species. But that could be a good way of looking at it. Maybe those species don't have as many predators or predators that can catch them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a widely accepted theory, but it's interesting. I've always wondered why a female would look at a male that's very brightly colored and think, I want my kids to look like that.
Right. Or that, like, oh, that's... The fact that you're brightly colored, or even in these bowerbirds, like the fact that you've built this shows me that you have suitable genes that I want to pass on. So when there are mating, like ritualistic mating combat, the one that wins is deemed the stronger male, and so for just survival purposes, the female says, "Well, I want my kids to have this survival strength." Yeah.
They think that one explanation is that, like, if you're colorful in the bird kingdom, it generally means health. Colorful birds are healthy birds, basically.
Okay.
So, and it's kind of more of a exaggeration of that. So, not only am I healthy, but I'm also like really brightly colored, and I've got these like weird plumes sticking out, and I'm dancing.
Look how
Vibrant I am.
Look how well I can dance. I didn't get injured or anything.
There's also one species of bird. I forgot what the name of it is. We can talk about that in another episode. A bird of paradise. One of the birds of paradise has the males have long plumes that are terrible for flying. But despite that hindrance, most of his mating display is flying. Is hovering.
It seems really counterintuitive.
So the idea is, look how good at flying I am.
Despite having this.
I can, yeah, that's what I've seen on
interesting
stuff.
When you say bird of paradise, I automatically think of a flower. Because that's a flower.
Is it?
Uh-huh. That looks like a bird of paradise.
Oh.
It's like a really, it's yellow and red and white and has like this kind of crest on the flower, so it looks just like a bird of paradise.
We're talking about plants.
Yeah. But these are not birds of paradise. I actually read something that said that these are definitely a deviation from that.
Mm-hmm. Even though birds of paradise are also a rainforest bird.
Right, but I guess they're not a Ghanaian rainforest bird. An Amazonian.
So anyway, that the transfer from plumes to rooms.
Plumes to rooms? That's great. That's another great possibility for this title.
The ability to collect means look at, I can find food, I can survive.
I have a lot of time on my hands.
And the ability to build is like, I'm healthy, I can put this stuff together, and yeah. I'm
intelligent too. That's what it says. And I have an eye for interior design and architecture.
Do you want your child to be foppish like me?
Bowerbirds, dandy fops of the bird classes.
Well, that's pretty much all I got.
Well, I've got the four main interesting ones that I found were the Vogelkop bowerbird, which that's the one that makes those tent teepees. Mm-hmm. The flame bowerbird is red and yellow and can control the size of its pupils, and so will rapidly expand and will dilate and
as part of the dance.
As part of the dance, and we'll do this weird slow motion wing dance thing, which, I mean, look it up. It's pretty crazy.
Go look at that. It's awkward to see.
It is awkward, but like, the pupil dilation is.
Am I intruding here?
Well, you see those cartoons where someone is being hypnotized and their eyes go like in and out. That's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And then we also have McGregor's bowerbird. That's the one that is famous for being able to imitate like rushing water and other birds and human speech. And then the Regent bowerbird is one I was talking about earlier that can that paints. The painting bowerbird.
Look it up. It's pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely the flame bowerbird. And if you can find the BBC Planet Earth.
It's a Life episode about.
Oh, it's Life.
It's all about birds.
It's not Life. I mean, it's not Planet Earth.
No, it's Life.
Okay, that's it for the bowerbird.
It sure is.
And that's it for our very first bird.
It sure is.
I hope there are many more in the future. I definitely like the undersea animals the most.
Really?
They're the least observed, and they're the craziest.
I'm a mammal man myself. True in multiple ways.
True. So until next time, this has been Life, Death, and Taxonomy. Welcome to the end of the episode. If your diagnosis is zoological ignorance, then I would prescribe 250 milligrams of more episodes. It's no cure, but it'll take care of the symptoms. Here, let me get your prescription for that. Now, I like to use iTunes, but you can use whatever podcast app you want, even the generic brand. In any case, subscribing is the best way to get your animal info on the go. I'll see you for your next appointment next week, right here on Life, Death, and Taxonomy.